my name is Carolina, and today we're gonna talk about why women get all their public hair removed and when it all started. And by public hair, I mean the head and the legs, the armpits, bikini lines, and all the other hair that may bother other people when they see it. I deeply started thinking about this when I moved to Los Angeles, and since the weather is warm most of the year, I always have to be hairless because often I wear skirts, shorts, or tanks, and it fucking takes a lot of my time. At one moment I thought, shit, why am I doing this? This seems completely unnatural and irrational. Hair clearly grows to protect certain parts of my body, like my eyelashes protect my eyes from the sun. Moreover, hair regulates my body temperature, and I can feel that because when I don't have hair in my legs, I usually get colder. So why would I want to suffer and go against nature? My girlfriends and I were always struggling with this issue. We often considered not going on a date if we know we're not entirely waxed or shaved, and I especially hate the fact that I depend on it to go to the beach or to a swimming pool. And I know that sounds completely stupid, but that's how life works for girls like me, with white skin and dark hair. And then I thought, this must be some stupid practice created by the beauty industry in the last century, and since everybody does it, nobody questions it. I consider it to be the industry and media fault because usually that's how it goes.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little prickly. I shaved yesterday.
Don't risk dudeness.
And also because I notice how they lie to us. They make us think that depilate our body is painless. All models look so goddamn happy and smiling while they're waxing, but it actually hurts a lot. And no woman enjoys it. Also, they tell us that once you do it, your skin looks marvelous and sexy, when in fact it usually gets irritated with red dots, and if you shave, it itches. But it's not something that they only promote in advertising. Movies do it too.
Jesus, honey, wax much? What? I didn't know I was going to be wearing a bathing suit.
Television and magazines all put this huge pressure on girls to not have public hair exhibited because basically we won't look pretty, clean, or even healthy, which for me it sounds ridiculous. And that's how I started looking at history, to prove my point that society all of a sudden went crazy and decided that women were not feminine enough or not good sexual material if they don't have their legs, armpits, or bikini lines hair removed. But then boom. To my surprise, I found out that this was not something that started last century for no rational reason, but apparently the ancient Egyptians were one of the first people to do it. Statues from ancient Egypt and also later the Greeks and the Roman Empire as well provide evidence that some form of public hair removal was practiced by women in these cultures. It's believed that they used tweezers made with seashells, stones, or early beeswax and sugar-based waxes. And even the presence of pubic hair on women was considered to be uncivilized. So how can I fight that many years of history and tradition? It has been thousands of years since it all started, and it got more developed through the years. For example, in the Middle Age, Queen Elizabeth I set the precedence of hair removal amongst women, who followed her lead by removing it from their faces, but not their bodies. They removed eyebrows and hair from their forehead to make it look larger with walnut oil, bandages soaked in ammonia, which they got from cats, and vinegar. After that, in late 18th century, while European and American women did not take it into much consideration, a French barber named Jean Borel or whatever created the first razor for men in 1760, which was used by some women. By 1844, Dr. Gorard created the first depilatory cream called Poudre Substitute. Soon after, King Cam Gillette set a revolution with the first modern razor for men, which led 3 decades later to the first Gillette razor for women in 1915, named the Milady de Gogité. He is one to blame for creating a market where there wasn't one in the US. He introduced the concept of shaving in women, which will ultimately become a convention. Thank you, Gillette. So now we get to the last past century, where I think it all went out of our hands and kinda proves my initial point. In 1907, an ad for X-Basin depilatory powder promised to remove humiliating growth of hair on the face, neck, and arms, already marking a tone for beauty standards. A decade later, a leading fashion women's magazine showed for the first time an ad with a woman with her arms braced and her armpits bare. The introduction of hair removal to American women not incidentally coincides with substantial changes in women's clothing fashion. women's clothing suddenly began to allow for movement, the length of skirts and dresses began slowly to creep outward, revealing more part of the legs. After that, in 1940, Remington released the first electric women's razor, and girls were getting more social pressure to go bare. Also related to the first bikini swimming suit made in 1946. Girls now faced with the need to remove pubic hair that might be exposed by the new fashion that wasn't before. By the 1950s, hair removal became more publicly accepted, and in the 60s, the wax strips made their debut and quickly became the method of choice for removing unwanted hair on legs and armpits. And surprising as it sounds, for girls like me who thought that the laser method was a new thing, actually, the first laser method hit the market during this period as well, but it was quickly abandoned because it damaged the skin more often than not. And in the 70s, although electrolysis had been around for nearly a century, it became more reliable at this decade with the development of better equipment. But with the rise of feminism in the 1960s and the 1970s, many women choose to accept their natural body hair and to reject culturally imposed ideals of hairless, childlike feminine beauty. So this is the first time in history that I see that some women were actually questioning this practice, but it didn't last much longer because by the 80s it was really common to have their hair removed, and from the 90s to now, sadly it seems like it's kind of mandatory for social courtesy. What's really interesting is that over recent years, pornography has also cultivated an image of the sexually attracted woman who is characterized by the absence of pubic hair. The growth of online pornography has meant that for many young men and women, this image is now considered to be the norm. And for me, that I come from Uruguay, a country right next to Brazil, where we tend to use tiny bikinis, it feels like we have to have Brazilian waxing. And guys are getting so used to having sex with a girl with no pubic hair that my stupid mind thinks that if I don't have it like that, boys will not like me as much. How fucking ridiculous is that? So all this leads to the fact that I was wrong to think that this was a recent behavior. And even though media and advertisement made it a norm in the last century, this all started way before. So I guess I give up. I can't fight this by myself. I will still have to shave my armpit every day and get my skin irritated, use my electric depilator on my legs once a week and deal with long grown hair, do a Brazilian wax every month and submit myself to torture. And live with the fact that Western society demands a beauty standard for women that we're pushed to follow as if being a girl was not already hard in this world. But who knows, maybe someday I will be completely free.